Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at one of Brett Maverick's videos, who, if you're not familiar with him, he's a menfluencer slash, I guess he kind of gives aesthetic advice for men, but not really as detailed or with much explanation. Nonetheless, he's apparently self-quoted the godfather of jaw exercises, and he really seems to specialize in that field of giving advice regarding the jaw and how you can get a sharper jaw. But for some reason he's stopped doing jawline exercises, so I'm gonna tell you if the reasons he's giving are legitimate, what my thoughts are, and we're gonna take a discussion on it.
That I stopped was to slow down my wrinkling. You see, white people with less melanin in their skin actually wrinkle a lot faster than people who do, because they are a lot more sensitive to the sun, because we originate from areas that are a lot less directly impacted by the sun, so we don't have to develop thicker, stronger skin like people who have darker complexions do. And as you guys know, there are muscles within your face, and these muscles are responsible for facial expressions. We use them every time we smile or frown, and the more facial expressions you do, those actually get drawn on your face in the form of wrinkles and lines. So if you see people that smile a lot, they have these smile lines, these...
Okay, well, firstly, two things that he pointed out that are very much true. You do have less melanin as a Caucasian European male, and for that reason, it does make you more prone to sun damage, which is something we've covered extensively on the channel. Very much true. The wrinkling is also another factor. Repetitive facial movements in general can lead to those wrinkles being imprinted on the skin permanently. So the actual causation of him trying to maybe suggest that jawline exercises are going to lead to more wrinkling, I don't really agree with that, because when you think about it, how often jawline exercises are like maybe 15-20 minutes of your day tops. They're minimally, they're not extreme movements. They're not something that you do for the rest of your life.
These crow's feet, that's me. I got these crow's feet coming in. So that was my first sign that I need to whoa, chill out with the facial expression. And if you're doing a lot of jawline exercises, the XO face and all these different things, that's gonna do a lot of stretching to your skin. You're activating a lot of those facial muscles that are pulling on your skin and making you wrinkle a lot faster. So I decided to just cut that out altogether, because I'm actually pretty happy with where my jawline is at. I've been training it for years.
Okay, another point here. He does have a very valid case that because he's noticing some wrinkling, he wants to cut it out altogether. Even if the actual exercises are not what's causing the wrinkling, I understand why he would want to cut out jawline exercises altogether, just in case it is what's causing those factors. Now, with a lot of these aesthetic routines that people have, oftentimes it's not really worth the minor gains that you get from doing it being a detriment to something else. A good example for me personally was with creatine. Apparently there's a study going around that creatine does lead to some cases of hair loss, and it's not for everyone, and it has been debunked, but still I err on the side of caution, and I just stopped taking it completely, because in my workouts I never really noticed much of a benefit from it anyway. So maybe he's doing the same thing with the jawline exercises. The benefit of it, I personally, from the research we've seen, it does work, but it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort, and the results that you get are not as significant as people want to believe. People like to think that jawline exercises work because it gives them a at-home method of controlling. It's a very deterministic thing. You can control the way your face looks by just doing these exercises. You can, just like with any other muscle, you feel like you're growing stronger, you're getting better at it by doing something at home. Whereas with the jawline, the facial muscles, especially with the facial muscles, they're very robust and they require a lot of extra tough movements to really get them going. Much like the forearm muscles as well, they require a lot of extra work for very little gain, and they're very difficult to train as well.
And I decided, why not take this one element out of the routine? The next reason is I just didn't find it being effective enough for my time. I invested a lot of time into
as I said.
and I didn't feel as much activation and stimulation in my jaw and facial muscles as I did with things like mewing or just bolus chewing, you know, chewing a ton of gum. I feel that the most. I feel it so much in my masseter muscles over here. So in my experience, I just found it not really being as effective as I would have liked it to be. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't work. Most professionals do agree that jawline exercises do stimulate growth in your face. Let's take a look at what this nice lady had to say.
Like, do jawline exercises actually work?
They definitely help because the tightness in the jawline is due to the muscle strength. And the muscles, especially at the corners of the jaw, if you exercise them and bulk them up a little bit, will tighten and pull the jawline back.
But I just found in my particular case, it wasn't effective enough and I could better spend my time doing other things. That's not to say you shouldn't at all. If you are a die-hard go-getter trying to get that jawline baby, then by all means, do everything you can to help your jawline. Mewing, bolus chewing, chewing hard foods, as well as the jawline exercises. But for me, I found that the most...
Okay, so my recommendation here is, again, he's correct that jawline exercises they do work, but the return on gains is quite minimal. And this is why, because our recommendation is oftentimes to go with the non-surgical option, and this may be like dermal fillers or cool sculpting. There's different options that you can go do at a aesthetic clinic or like a medical spa, whatever they're called in your country. And that's just because the jawline exercises you do every single day for the rest of your life, maybe not the rest of it, maybe the next 10 years, are going to have such minimal gains in comparison to a maybe $500 dermal filler, which is going to give you very immediate results and look a lot more natural because it's spread out more evenly compared to the jawline exercises, which work particularly the masseters, which bulk up, as she was saying, it works up the gonial muscles. So the masseter, which connects at that point, it's going to give you a very triangle shaped look, and Brett is a good example of that. It's very clear to see from Brett's face that he does do these exercises because of how pronounced his dimples are, which is much more than the normal person. And also you can just see a lot more mass on his inferior mandible outline, which is basically this lower outline here. And so these factors do indicate that he does do the work. He has gotten some results. But for me personally, I would recommend that you go to a clinic and just get some augmentation done, because it is much easier and a better use of your time than doing this every single day for the next maybe 10 years to get any kind of significant results. And it's also right, the bolus chewing, that is also more effective, and we're going to make a video on that very soon.
Most important thing is just mewing, keeping that tongue up, and chewing lots of gum. Now, those of you who don't know what mewing is, we talk about it all the time, but it's basically comes down to just proper tongue posture. And what that consists of is having your tongue pressed up against the roof of your mouth at all times, especially in the back right here, because this actually conditions your face to grow upwards and forwards, giving you better facial structure and a better jawline actually. And if you do it for long enough and from a young age, you can actually get more prominent cheekbones. So if you don't want to know more about that, go watch some of my other videos. And there's plenty of content out there on that. Now, that brings us to the final thing that might be a reason why you in particular might want to consider stopping jawline exercises. And that is the danger of TMJ or bruxism or some type of jaw joint problem. A lot of people...
TMJ is temporomandibular disorder and temporomandibular joint disorder, and it is very significant. It's going to be something I was going to mention if he did it himself. It would probably, for me, be the primary reason for not doing jawline exercises, because the cartilage in your joint between your jaw and your actual skull is very sensitive, and cartilage regeneration is near impossible with current technology. So once that cartilage gets damaged from excess pressure, you can imagine as you're trying to chew very hard foods, that cartilage is going under an incredible amount of friction and stress. Once that cartilage deteriorates, it's gone for good. So you're kind of screwed there, and that's going to be lifelong chronic pain that is not worth getting a more defined jaw. And even the more defined jaw results are very minimal at best.
People have TMJ from some sort of injury or overusing their jaw or having prior acute jaw joint problems. And that is damage to your temporomandibular joint in your jaw. You get this clicking, this grinding, and pain, and sometimes even locking of your jaw. And if you have prior acute jaw joint problems, then if you're doing a bunch of jawline exercises where you're stimulating and using that joint a lot, you can actually, kind of activate that problem, and you don't want to do that. So I personally don't have jaw joint problems. I've been doing jawline exercises and mewing and eating tough foods for years now, and I've never had any pain or anything like that. So I know that I could get away with doing that, but you might not be able to. And if you want to know if you do, there's a couple little quick tests you can do. First one we just call the thumb test. Just take your thumbs, put them right here where your mandible meets the upper palate. Put it in there. Open and close your jaw. And if you feel any clicking or popping or severe pain, then you might have prior jaw joint problems, and you probably shouldn't be doing excessive jawline exercises. The next one is just a diameter test, a dilation test, if you will. And for this, I just call it the fingertips test. You just make a big open mouth, take your fingers like this, and try to get at least 3 fingers in there. Continue doing these jawline exercises and whatnot. But if you feel pain, you probably should take it really easy and maybe just stick to mewing and chewing a lot of gum. So it's important to know this before you commit to any sort of training regimen or overstimulation of your jaw, because you don't want to end up with injury.
Okay, so it basically goes on to say, don't do this because I'm taking liability for your jaw problems, and if you have jaw injuries, don't do it. Now, personally, I would recommend not doing jawline exercises full stop. It's just not worth the risk of TMJ, and TMJ can happen to anybody, even without these issues priorly. Most dentists do not recommend doing jawline exercises using heavy, like the jaw sizer device, for instance, and anybody who does is trying to sell you something. The risks of TMJ are so significant that the excess pressure that you put on your jaw by trying to chew on these devices in the hopes of stimulating your masseter muscles or hypertrophying your masseter muscles is just not worth the chronic lifelong pain that you will get. Now, what does this mean for you? Well, in terms of jaw exercises, there are some options. There are certain exercises that I don't think are as harmful as others. Anything that you can do with your mouth regarding chewing. So generally just chewing gum is not a bad habit. It can also help with tongue activation, which is more important rather than the actual bite force that you're trying to exhibit. The tongue posture is very much significant to the actual facial development rather than just the amount of bite force that you can exhibit, which is what the jaw sizer device is trying to sell you on. That's my advice. With jaw exercises, again, the final line is that you can do them, but just stick to gum, chewing gum, and the basic ones like the exo, like you're showing, the one that's like you move your mouth around. There'll be something on screen for that. But avoid products that enforce heavy bite force. That is not what you want. You do not need bite force to get a wider jaw. You need proper tongue posture. You want to move your tongue around. You really want to work that tongue because that's what's more effective. If you want to get an aesthetic report and get your face analyzed by our team of doctors and dentists, you can go to the Coos website. I also suggest that you guys follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We have dedicated content there, and it's a lot of aesthetic content. We really work on educating the population on facial aesthetics and some of the dangers of like products like the jaw sizer.